Welcome to our 2025 Gala of Unity, celebrating diversity and understanding for stalking victims.
It's truly an honor to be here, and I was really inspired by Turquoise really sharing her story and making the point that, stalking is something that we need to look at across the board from the standpoint of the survivor. If we look at the lens that they're looking through, whether it's an former intimate or current intimate partner that's stalking them or what have you, we have to look at the behavior and how that's impacting the survivor, how that's impacting the victim. Here in Montgomery County on the police department, I was lucky enough to have been a part of starting the first domestic violence unit in the state of Maryland in 1996. I was lucky enough to work with, thank you. I was lucky enough to work with and the Maryland Network Against Domestic Violence to go down before the state legislature and testify to get the first stalking laws in this state. And by the way, the stalking law in the state, it wasn't as long as what was shared with us when it first passed. But what was amazing was that not only here in Maryland, but across the country, the first laws were written so there had to be specific intent by the perpetrator, which basically meant we had to go through big hurdles to hold somebody accountable for this caustic behavior. But we were able to later get them to change it to a general intent law, so you could go, it was like it can be inferred reasonably that if somebody is engaging in this behavior, that it is causing the victim fear, the survivor fear. And we also, when the law was quoted for you up here, you heard a lot of that what automatically causes you to believe is caustic behavior. But understand, we have to look at this through the lens of the victim, right? And so when I get a call and the individual tells me, and they're shivering from fear in the middle of the summer, they're shivering from fear. Ma'am, can you tell me what happened? He left a rose in my front seat. If I don't have the intellect to understand that I need to ask this individual, what does that rose mean to you? Right? I can't assume that somebody getting a rose is a romantic gesture in and of itself. This goes to putting behavior in context. I need to go next, ma'am, what does that mean to you? It means, he told me, next time you mess up, I'm going to give you a rose, and the next day I'm going to kill you. All of a sudden, that's a lot more significant, right? So any behavior that goes on, whether it's a current or former intimate partner, whether it's a coworker, whether it's a total stranger, ma'am, sir, what does that behavior mean to you? Put in context, right? Because we know that basically, when we're talking about stalking, we're talking about a course of conduct that means more than two types of things that places a person in reasonable fear for themselves or others, right? And I can't tell you how difficult it is to hammer that home for law enforcement and getting them to charge this correctly each and every time it happens. It's about accountability. It really is. And when I train law enforcement on this, I say, okay, riddle me this. You make a traffic stop, or you get a call. The call is for disorderly conduct. You get to the scene, the individual who has been called upon is still there. You say, sir, I need you to stop, and they say whatever and everything, and they won't stop and everything, and you are pushed to the point where you make a legal, lawful arrest of this individual. You take them down to the station, you process them, you take them to the commissioner, they're relieved on personal recognizance, but you've done, because by the law, they definitely were engaging in disorderly conduct. You drive back to the station and you finish your shift and you pull out in your take-home cruiser, you're driving to your home, you look in your rear view mirror and you notice someone who looks like the individual you locked up a few hours ago for disorderly conduct. You don't think a whole lot of it. You go home, you drive, you go home, you only live 15 minutes from the station, and every turn you make, that car makes. You pull up into your driveway and you get out of your cruiser and you start walking by and the guy just drives by and keeps driving. Week later, you get up, you got your uniform on, you're getting into your car, getting ready to get in your car to go to work. You open the garage door and you look, and what do you see? That car, right? And you're all pissed off. You go inside of the house and everything, you're getting the rest of your stuff together, and you say to your wife's like, what's the matter? And you say, well, this car and everything. She's like, that car's been there for the last week. Right? And you're like, what do you mean it's been there for the last week? You didn't say anything to me about this car or anything like that. You go to work and you're fuming, you're definitely upset and so forth. And then you come back home that day and you're kind of settling down, and your daughter comes into the house and says, Daddy, this nice man at the bus stop said to say hi to you. What nice man? Well, he's still standing out there. You go out to your front door and this same guy is getting into his car and drives off. And I asked the officers in that room, how do you feel right now? Every one of them is out of their seat, almost levitated. This individual didn't say anything to anybody. All of his behavior was innocent. And what stalking laws do, and when you engage in this course of conduct, it makes normally, or what would seem normal behavior, it can make that criminal. Boom. And then I say, okay, now you're ready to learn about stalking. And I've got a lot of officers in there who want to learn about it. Because all of a sudden, what's in it for me, right? I got to answer that question. Because I got to get them where I need them to be. And this is such an invasive crime. And it's such a crime of, the vast majority of perpetrators, it might not be politically correct, but it's statistically correct, are men. And when a man is being stalked, it's usually by a man who is the former partner of the person he's dating now. Makes sense, right? This is a thing of privilege. Patriarchy is still living in our communities and so forth. And these individuals feel entitled to do this, to engage in this type of behavior. And it's incumbent upon all of us to stand up. That's why it's so great to see you all here tonight. I don't care if I can only talk to 4 people, 2 people. When I get to talk about this topic, if you can't tell, my wife will say, he's getting on his soapbox again. Yeah, he is. Because this is my life's work. And I was lucky enough to meet Turquoise in some of the trainings that I've done. And she actually asked me to be here last year. I was out of town on a training, and I couldn't be with you last year. But this is near and dear to my heart because we together have to work day in and day out to try to ensure that nobody is ever a victim. We have to teach not only our young girls, but our young boys. I've got 2 boys. And you know when I started talking about these type of topics to them, before they could even understand any word anybody could say, because this is a process. We can acculturate our young people in positive ways and so forth, and we need to. We need to do this and talk about this every opportunity these topics, every opportunity we get, and we need to definitely be there for our neighbor, anybody who comes forward. Be there with open arms, and this is something that is especially is tough because of it was mentioned. Technology is the perpetrator's best buddy because of how invasive it can be and how far somebody can reach and accomplish stalking. I'll just leave you and just plug a book that really can help you understand, help us all understand how these perpetrators behave, how we can work together to really support individuals who are in this predicament and hold perpetrators accountable. It's called The Gift of Fear. The Gift of Fear by Gavin DeBecker. He puts it in really, really subtle terms. And it teaches women in particular to go ahead and listen to your gut. Your gut's usually right, whether you can explain it or not. Your justification should say, "Hey, that's my gut, and that's the way I'm going." I mean, he says things like, if your car breaks down on the side of the road, you got a flat tire. Don't wait for some nice guy to stop and help you with your tire. You pick the guy you want to change your tire, because you're more likely to pick somebody who's a good person than somebody who's stopping by and trying to take advantage of the situation. And you know what? If I stop and I try to help and you say no, I need to just turn around and go back to my car. The person who's not predatory in nature is not going to have a problem with you saying no. Think about that. All right? So, but I'm not going to go on. I could go on forever, this topic. I mean, I was thinking of all the things that were said, and I've been doing this for so long and everything. But thank you for being here. Do everything you can, every chance you get. We collectively need to work to keep our communities safe. Nobody has a corner in the market when it comes to responsibility here. But Turquoise, thank you for having me. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much for watching. To see more from our annual gala, click the top video. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe.